Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypher Box. Okay, so let's talk about Crawford versus Khan, which is going to happen on April 20th. It's going to be on ESPN in the US and on Sky Sports here in the UK. Look, it's a good fight. I think it's a good fight. You know, the problem for Terence Crawford is, obviously, a lot of people will criticise Terence Crawford for this, but the problem is, he's an ESPN fighter, and most of the top welterweights are fighting on PBC, and, you know, boxing politics always gets in the way. I'm not going to talk about it too much in detail. I have to do a separate video. Actually, I've done a welterweight video on it where I talked about it as well, to be honest with you. You know, where I did a welterweight review video, so go check that out if you want to hear my opinions in depth regarding to the politics around Crawford and the likes of Spence and other PBC welterweights. But listen, this is a good fight, I think, for Amir Khan as well. Look, listen, I've been quite tough on Amir Khan with the whole Kell Brook situation. I've always felt like he doesn't want that fight, or he's delayed it, or he wants to put, you know, things in place that give him a better advantage against Kell. I felt there's always been that he's been a bit skittish when it comes to Kell Brook, in my opinion. But at the same time, I also feel he's probably used Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn at the same time to promote himself, to get himself that media exposure, with getting everyone, not just this side of the pond, but the other side of the pond, talking about it. You know, a lot of YouTube channels, etc., have been talking about it, and it's got Amir Khan's name back out there a little bit. And I feel like he's done that in order to get a fight of this magnitude with Terence Crawford. Now, let's not forget, you can't really say he's ducking Kell Brook for taking this fight. Terence Crawford is considered the number one or number two pound for pound fighter on the planet. If he's not one or two for you, he's definitely somewhere in your top five. I don't really do pound for pound on this channel. I think it's a complete waste of time. But I know a lot of people out there do, and he is somewhere in that top five, or, you know, if he's not in that top two, then he's in that top five for you. He's a world champion, welterweight champion. He's holding that WBO version of the title. You know, Amir Khan's getting $5 million, I think, for this fight, or £5 million, something like that. Eddie Hearn says that, you know, there would have been a lot more on the table if he took the Kell Brook fight, but Amir Khan's turned around and said, no, Eddie's not telling the truth. It would have been a little bit more if I took the Kell Brook fight, but not much more. So it depends on which side of the story you believe on that one. But like I said, you know, you can't turn around and say Amir Khan's ducking Kell Brook. If he went on to fight someone like, I don't know, maybe an Adrian Broner, maybe not even Adrian Broner, maybe someone like a Jesse Vargas or something like that, then you could say, oh, he's ducking Kell Brook to fight Jesse Vargas. But he's not. He's fighting one of the best pound for pound fighters on the planet, and in the sport. And, you know, this is a legacy fight for him. If he can pull this off, you know, it does wonders for his legacy, and it opens up opportunities for other bigger fights at welterweight. Also, it's good to hear that Virgil Hunter will be back in the corner of Amir Khan. Now, Virgil Hunter was out due to illness over the last year or so, but he seems to have recovered really well from that, which is great to hear. And he'll be back in Amir Khan's corner. Amir Khan's had Joe Guzman recently in his last couple of fights in his corner. If I had to choose for Amir Khan, I would definitely think Virgil Hunter was a better choice. Simply because I feel Joe Guzman's one of those trainers who likes his fighters to be aggressive, maybe even overly aggressive at time, leaving themselves open to risks, and, you know, getting caught and, you know, getting hit. Whereas Virgil Hunter's a little bit more disciplined with his fighters. He likes them to take a little bit more of a disciplined approach at times, and he does think about defense as well. You know, which isn't Amir Khan's strongest point, let's be honest. You know, Amir Khan's a bit of a gunslinger, so he needs someone in there to rein him in and teach him and get him to control his speed and his punch output, is what I'm basically trying to say. So having Virgil Hunter in his corner will be, you know, very helpful towards, you know, in terms of taking on the likes of Terence Crawford. Look, the one thing about Amir Khan brings excitement. There's no doubt about that. You know, whether you are an Amir Khan supporter, whether you're a neutral boxing fan like myself, or you're someone who just doesn't like Amir Khan, you're going to tune in to watch him. Yeah, because the one thing you're going to get, whether he loses or draw, he's going to bring excitement. Yeah, and probably the reason why Terence Crawford has probably picked him. Yeah, because, you know, he is someone he's former world champion. You know, his record has some good names on it. And do you know what I mean? He will come to fight. There's no doubt about that. You know, he'll leave it all out there. You know, and if he has to go out on his shield, he'll have to go out on his shield. One of the things that you have to be worried about Amir Khan is a lot of people talk about, oh, he's got a glass jaw, I don't really think Amir Khan's got a glass jaw. I think he's got a weak jaw. Yeah, because Amir Khan does get back up when he gets knocked down. He might get back up once and then he'll get knocked out the second time round, or he'll get up 2 or 3 times before the referee stops it, or whatever. We've seen that in the past with the likes of Danny Garcia, Brendan Prescott, etc. Right? Those sort of scenarios with him. Canelo, but Canelo was massive compared to Amir Khan. You know, that one punch was always going to do that to him. We know that, complete mismatch, in my opinion. But his defensive capabilities have always been a concern, and it's not because he's got a weak jaw. It's because he's got poor defensive skill sets. You know, we've seen it. We saw it against Samuel Vargas. He made that same, when he got knocked down by Samuel Vargas, he made that same mistake he did against Canelo. You know, the punch comes in, he drops his hand, he leans all the way back, sticks his chin up in the air, and bam, open target, and down he went. It was the same thing he did against Canelo. I think it was similar to one of the knockdowns he had against Danny Garcia, Brendan Prescott as well. He does that. He has poor defensive capabilities. You know, he has those moments where he switches off. And in those moments when he switches off, that's when he gets caught. Not only that, you know, he is a gunslinger as well. He likes to throw punches in bunches. And, you know, with Virgil Hunter's taught him a little bit how to control that. Virgil Hunter says, you know, he's got great speed. Yes, we know he's got power. Yes, we know he can throw a lot of punches. But it's about controlling all of that and using it economically to win rounds. And if the knockout comes, the knockout comes. But Amir Khan, he's that kind of guy. He just wants to go in there and fight. So having Virgil Hunter in his corner to kind of, you know, rein him in when he needs to, you know, that's important, in my opinion. We've seen Virgil Hunter, sometimes he's screaming him at, you know, even during the rounds, you can hear Virgil Hunter screaming at Amir. And even at times, you know, even in the corner in between rounds, you know, I've seen him shout at him saying, "Are you listening to me, son?" You know, and he gets him to look at me, and he looks at me and goes, yeah, I'm listening, you know. So he knows what he's got to do with Amir Khan, you know, and that's why I said it's really good to have him in his corner. But again, those defensive capabilities of Amir Khan's are always going to be that risk factor where if he leaves himself out there, or he has that moment where he falls asleep or loses focus for a split second, that's where the damage gets done, in my opinion. Or if he throws too many punches in one combination, instead of throwing 1-2-3s or 1-2s, throws 4, 5, 6 punch combinations, that's another situation where he leaves himself open, because he leans into those punches moving forward, completely forgets about protecting himself, and then gets caught with counters and stuff like that. So again, you know, that's something that they're going to have to work on, especially going up against Terence Crawford. But don't forget, at the same time, Amir Khan still has his speed. He still has those quick hands, you know, which causes his opponents problems. There's no doubt about that, yeah? That quickness is still there. I think he's lost probably half a step when it comes to that speed. Yeah, I think he's lost about half a step, maybe a full step. Yeah, and that comes with age. Yeah, and don't forget, in the last couple of fights, he had, been a 2-year layoff since the Canelo Khan fight. And then he came back, fought, Le Greco, whatever his name is, and then fought Samuel Vargas. You know, the Le Greco fight finished in like 40 seconds or whatever it was, and then he had obviously the fight against Samuel Vargas, which was probably his real tune-up fight. You know, I was probably a little bit harsh with him on the back of that fight, to be honest with you, because, you know, I was like, what the hell is this? But at the same time, I had to remember as well, you know, I probably did that, you know, straight away without really thinking about it, but I was probably a little bit harsh with him on that fight, because that was probably his first real tune-up fight after such a long layoff and the injuries that he was suffering from during that layoff. But he's still got that speed, and that will give anyone problems still. yeah, and you got to work around that speed, and you got to time your punches, look for counter opportunities against him. And when you got someone throwing punches at that kind of speed at you, it can be quite difficult. You know, he's still got quick feet as well, so he can still move around the ring quite quickly. So even movement wise, that can still cause a problem for individuals that he goes up against when he goes up against his opponents. The other thing I will say about Amir Khan, in my opinion, throughout his career, Amir Khan has shown a real lack of ring intelligence. He's not the kind of fighter who sets traps or tries to position his opponents into certain positions. It doesn't feel like he can make adjustments in the ring. He needs his corner to tell him how to do that. Does that make sense? He's not the most intelligent boxer in there, in my opinion. He is a gunslinger, and as a gunslinger, he just goes out there, throws the punches, pivots, moves out, turns out, you know, turns to the left, turns to the right, throws a few more punches, goes back, goes out, steps back in, throws a few more punches. There's no real thought process to what he's doing in the ring. And he needs a corner, and that's why I say it's good to have Virgil Hunter back in his corner to give him that advice and that instruction. And because that's why you hear, during the rounds, you will hear Virgil Hunter screaming at Amir Khan all the way through each round. Because he knows his fighter. He knows Amir hasn't got that natural ring intelligence, you know, that ring intelligence that you need in the ring to make adjustments. So he needs to scream it out to him constantly throughout the fights. Go and watch the fights he's had with Virgil Hunter so far. You'll hear Virgil Hunter screaming throughout the rounds and then screaming in between the rounds because he knows Amir hasn't got that level of ring intelligence. Yeah, and he needs to be giving him constant instructions as to what to do during the fight and during the rounds. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure most of you Amir Khan fans will come to his defense and say, oh, Virgil Hunter does that with all his fighters. Yeah, he does it to a degree, but I feel he does it more with Amir Khan than anyone else. And it's down to that reason. And what about Terence Crawford? Listen, Terence Crawford, in my opinion, can do it all, yeah? Very talented fighter. You know, watched him throughout his career. You know, this is a guy who's already achieved a lot of great things in his career. Yes, I agree. You know, a lot of people have been getting upset with Keith Thurman's comments about Terence Crawford at welterweight. You know, Keith Thurman keeps saying he's still got to prove himself at welterweight, etc. And yeah, he does. He does need to prove himself still at welterweight. Yeah, he may have that welterweight belt, but let's face it, he faced Jeff Horn for that belt. And that was his debut at welterweight. And I said it straight away. I said he's going to destroy Jeff Horn. He's going to take him apart. You know, that fight will end within 10 rounds or whatever it was. And I was right, it did. You know, he was leagues above Jeff Horn. You know, the next fight was it Benavidez? Again, do you know what I mean? Yeah, look, Benavidez came in with his injury, but the thing was, I'm not going to accept that injury. And the reason I'm not going to accept that injury is because in the build up to the fight, he was saying he was going to destroy Crawford and do all these things to Crawford, and then after the fight, he made it start saying, "Oh, my knee," which fighters tend to do. So for me, that was like an excuse. If you're going to talk like that at the end of the fight, then you need to talk like that in the build-up. So yeah, my knee might be is a bit of a problem, but don't worry, we've strategized how to get around that. Do you know what I mean? You can't just start saying at the end of the fight because you lost, oh, you know, if he'd beat Terence Crawford on that night, would he have complained about his knee? Probably not. That's my point. So, but again, it was Benavidez, and Benavidez was coming up from 140, wasn't he? So he's still got to prove himself at welterweight, in my opinion, yes. But he has proven himself in previous divisions, unified at 135, or was it, you know, undisputed at 140. So he's a tremendous fighter who can do it all, yeah? He can box and move. We've seen that against Victor Postol. You know, he can stand in the middle with you and trade with you. Do you know what I mean? He can get in and out. He makes adjustments. Very highly intelligent boxer. He usually takes the first 2 to 3 rounds to work out his opponent and download information, and then he goes to work once he's done that. Yeah, once he's figured you out and thinking, okay, what kind of style do I need to use with this guy? Yeah, do I need to box on the outside and move? Can I stay in there and actually take the risk and trade with him? Do you know what I mean? And go punch for punch with him. So he is a very intelligent fighter in that sense, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, can be defensively exposed as well. You know, at times he can leave himself open to punches, and that's where Amir Khan's going to want to take advantage in those situations. Yeah, look, every fighter can be hit, don't get me wrong. Yeah, so as great as Terence Crawford is, he's also got his flaws as well, and I feel defensively he sometimes leaves himself open and gets caught. And we've seen it in fights sometimes where he does get caught. So that's where Amir Khan's going to be wanting to be taking the advantage, I suppose, in a sense. Amir Khan's probably going to want to start off quick. Those first 2 to 3 rounds are going to be crucial for Amir Khan to definitely get those under his belt, because that's the time where Terence Crawford that's the time he will use to download and analyze his opponent and download the information that he needs, and then go to work, like I've said to you before. So Amir Khan kind of wants to set the pace from that point on, yeah, and probably apply pressure to him, but calculated pressure, so he's not putting himself in risk or in a position where he's going to get caught and obviously, ends up getting knocked down or knocked out. Yeah, because like I said, although I don't believe Amir Khan has a glass jaw, he does have a weak jaw. Yeah, and that's due to his poor defensive capabilities. So he doesn't want to leave himself in that situation, of course, but he wants to take full opportunity from those earlier rounds, because that's where Crawford's going to use to kind of work him out, use the jab to probe it out to see what Amir Khan's reactions are, and then he's going to go to work. You know, and if in those first few rounds Amir Khan can put the pressure and disrupt Crawford's rhythm, you know, that might give him a better opportunity to go on and win the fight. But look, end of the day, without saying too much more, I personally think, you know, I will be supporting Amir Khan on the night of the fight. Of course, he's a British fighter. Why would I not support him on the night? Remember, my patriotic side comes out on fight night, so I will be, you know, supporting him and hoping he picks up the win. But if you're asking my honest opinion, I think Terence Crawford is going to be too much for Amir Khan at the end of the day. As much as I hope he proves me wrong, Amir Khan, I really do, because this is a great opportunity for him. At the same time, I just think Crawford is on another level, and I think his ability to adjust and adapt to different styles and adapt to different situations in the ring, which we've seen him do on many occasions, and the power, the ring intelligence he possesses, the power, the speed, because he is quick himself as well, is going to be too much for Amir Khan, and maybe a little bit overwhelming as well. And I think Amir Khan I reckon this fight could go to the late stages. I think Crawford stops Khan inside of 10 rounds, personally. You know, maybe even sooner than that. You know, but definitely within 10 rounds, I think Crawford will, you know, pick Amir Khan apart and eventually stop him. Whether that's knockout or the referee jumping in, whichever way, I think Terence Crawford is just going to be too much, far too much for Amir Khan. That's my take on it. As always, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.